welcome to the law office of Paul Brownstein. Let me show you around. Here is our waiting room. Not that we really make anyone wait, but just in case. So you would come in and have a seat for a minute, and then you would come to my window, and I would give you paperwork to fill out, which would pertain to your case. And here is my office, and this is where all the work gets done. Sometimes Paul sits at this desk a lot. And then I'll take you back to his consultation office. This is where you would have your consultation with Paul. And here is Paul Brownstein.
Oh, hi. I'm glad you're able to come in here today. And I'm going to give you a little idea of some of the things that we do here. And before I get involved in all that, this is the interview room where I see people and listen to their stories and tell them basically what I think they might need to know. And as I like to tell people, virtually everything in this room has some kind of story behind it, which very often is relevant to what clients want when they come in here. For example, over here, I keep this here, this little sculpture of an ear. And there's a reason for this thing being here. When I was growing up, people said, gee, you ought to be a lawyer, you have what's called a gift of gab. People think to be a good lawyer, you need to know how to talk. And even though there's some truth in that, the reality is that's not the number one skill a lawyer needs. This is the number one skill a lawyer needs. They have to be able to listen. And a lot of people want to tell you what they want you to know, instead of listening to what it is you want to find out. And they're not the same thing. I always ask for things that I call pertinent negatives. What is this not about? And very often it gets the client going into the right direction to help you figure out what they need to know. Another example is this picture I have here on my wall, which I've had for a very long time. And I keep it here for two reasons. First of all, I like it. Of course, I like this picture a lot. But here's the story. Many years ago, I was married in a first marriage, and it wound up in a not very happy divorce. A little bit to do with how come I do a lot of divorce work these days. I've been there, done that. I'm not going to be some abstract person telling you how to live your life and do your divorce, never having had the personal experience. I do have a personal experience. But here's the reason why it's here. My first wife knew I had bought this thing for very little money many years before. And one day, a man who owned a gallery came to see me and wanted to buy this thing and offered a great deal more money for it than I ever imagined or that I paid for it. And I made perhaps the mistake of telling my first wife about that adventure that day, and she remembered it. The day came when it was time for our divorce, which happened, which is unfortunate. We litigated over this thing. My wife wanted it very badly and made me really, really work hard to save it because I thought it was mine. I thought it was, I felt that way, I fought for it. It's here today, as I said, partly because I really like it. Clearly I won. And winning is the point I'm going to make here. I remind myself and I tell my clients, it wasn't worth it. Don't spend a lot of time and energy fighting over things that may not matter later and what it might cost you because of that. Not a good idea. Over here is a blowgun, a real one. This is right from Africa. It came from there. It's not a model, it's not a mock-up, it's the real thing. I got this from a client who thought that I was going to be able to use this thing to show the other party what this case is really all about. People think that. I keep it here because it's kind of clever, and I remember that, and I really like it, and it tells me what it's all about in this business, which is doing for people what they need, which may not necessarily be what people ought to have. As an example, I have down here a cartoon I keep for my clients in my divorce cases. This is clever. It's a man who's obviously a lawyer talking to his client. And he says to the client, your wife's also asking that you rot in hell for eternity. But I think that's negotiable. Well, there's a joke to that, but it's deadly serious. People should not be spending time and energy arguing over things unnecessary, and the client who doesn't know these things, in a manner of speaking, I've been divorced 2,000 times, a client is all new and unusual to them. And perhaps in closing, I'm going to show this last picture I have here on the wall. And I got this in an antique shop one year. I sometimes ask clients, can you read this thing? And right away they assume from a distance it's some foreign language. It looks like it might be Hebrew or Greek or something. Actually, George Bernard Shaw invented an alphabet. So this says right here, the George Bernard Shaw alphabet. And it's his own individual letters, which are English, and underneath it in smaller print, it says what it means in regular English print. The greatest problem of communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished. And that is the essence of negotiation, because it isn't just divorce stuff we do. We do contracts, we do discussion about business acquisitions, transfer of partnership interests, all kinds of stuff. And if there is not an understanding of what you're trying to say, what they're trying to say to you, it doesn't get accomplished very well. It's terribly important that when you work with a client, again, you do what they need, but sometimes they have to make allowances to be better understanding what it is they really need, which may not be where they're really focused. And we spend a lot of time doing that. In that regard, I have Lori as my able assistant, and she deals with clients all the time in regard to things that either are not necessarily requiring a lawyer's time directly, because it's not technical, or it may be because I'm not here, because I'm in court a heck of a lot, or maybe it's just because she can talk to them in a way that's person to person without the technical stuff getting in the way. And a lot of our clients, and not just, as you might imagine, the women who have a certain reputation some deserve as being emotional, men are just as bad. I keep a box of tissues in my office. I will tell you, it is not always the women that are crying. People get very upset about things that are important to them. I always tell them, in a couple of months you're going to feel a lot better. And pretty much I think that's been true. We treat our clients well, we advise them, we counsel them, we represent them as may be. And Lori helps me do all that.
So I love dealing with the clients because they're people, and they might be our 1000th case, but it's their only case. So I love to help people, and I love that everybody's story is different, even though it's kind of the same. Nobody's case is exactly the same, and everybody's unique in their own way, and their story's unique, and to them, you know, it's critical and it's important.